Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. My wife just told me I was doing a voiceover that you'll hear at the end of this video. I was just doing a few more leftover things from things I'm talking about here, but I want to make a regular video today. I don't want to, this is like meta stuff. But she said, well, people think you're leaving YouTube, so that's not the case. I said I would give it a year till the end of January, and then and it might happen sooner, based on whatever happens in terms of the monetary aspect of it, and I might move to a, paid for, some sort of, low fee, monthly fee for people to access my content because, I have to find a way to make more money here. I'll revisit this in January. Like, this is something where I have to figure things out. I have to spend some time and energy thinking about, how I spend my time and maybe just make less content, which I'm going to do for a while now. I'm going to put up less content, but I'll still be making content. I'm just going to be thinking about, spending more time just evaluating and maybe doing other things. Maybe I'll get that, the how I recovered from COVID stuff out there. I'll make that into some kind of, like a video I'll put on some other platform and make it a, whatever. Put it behind a paywall, charge like $5 or something like that. So, there's things I just have to like have the time to do. Like if I'm making content every day, it's just going to be, I'm not adjusting to the situation, right? I'm not looking at how I can cope with what's going on. So there's the financial element and just YouTube, YouTube sucking. That's like one piece to it. But the other piece is more sort of a progress report of humanity based in, my, limited whatever I do here. And, the stuff to do with the Heartfulness cult and things. And I talk about that at the end of the video, sort of a progress report of what I see and, humanity, where humanity's at. And, it's not great. Like you just can turn on the TV and just, just go into Walmart or just whatever it is, you can see where humanity's at. It's not great. Like we're going in the wrong direction. And, that's part of this whole channel, right? So there's all that. And I cover this at the end of the video here. I don't want to talk about too much here. But let's get into the other stuff. Okay, so this happened.
In this report about a figure who's been at the top so long, many say his time is over, and a challenger who will stop at nothing for the throne. Now, that might apply to the president defending his title from a former president, but this is actually a different throne, as the rapper with the most hits, Drake, fights the rap artist with the most acclaimed poetry, Kendrick Lamar, and that.
So this does not apply to Trump or Biden at all. Completely different, because I don't know who you would say is Drake. In this analogy, saying Kendrick Lamar is the challenger, so he's Trump. But, either way, like it doesn't apply, right? But more importantly, this is how low they've sunk, because they're taking something that's a pop culture, whatever it is, this rap battle feuds, which are usually fake, right? Usually what rap battles involve is both people are working together, just like these fake marriages, these Hollywood celebrity marriages. They're working together. It's a symbiotic relationship where both rappers are releasing albums, dropping albums, and they're bringing attention by creating drama that's not real. Just like celebrities do this, there'll be some sort of dramatic. Remember, there was some kind of thing with Twilight, where the Twilight girl cheated on the Twilight guy towards the end when no one was watching the movies anymore, and they made a big scandal. A guy went on an interview with like David Letterman or somebody, Jon Stewart or something. I saw that. Like I didn't, watch the movies, but there's ways that they create buzz around something that's happening by having something dramatic, something fake, something staged, and rap battles for the most part are that. Trump used to get involved with these rap battles. I used to talk about it. Like the thing he had with Rosie O'Donnell, you get into these Twitter wars, with Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC do these, these politicians, and they engage in these things that are just completely fake and contrived, and they're working symbiotically to draw attention to each other and themselves, and, there's monetary benefit, right? I don't think this thing is like that just because Kendrick Lamar called Drake a pedo. So it seems like that isn't helping Drake out at all, right? But the genre that they do this in is has nothing to do with mainstream media, because they're just not the same thing, right? And these mainstream media channels, I just covered this with my last sort of video on this stuff. It was like 3 or 4 videos ago. That Dana Bash, the political analyst for CNN, was really ghouls it up. Went with Lindsey Graham. She interviewed Lindsey Graham and tried to get him to play the game Marry, Date, Marry, and she changed the last part to, she wrecked the game by changing the last part to Make Disappear, which is supposed to be F, right? So, it's a game that kids play. It's a stupid game. Like, as an adult, you would say, yeah, I'm not playing that game. As an older person, he's 70 years old. And he's like, kind of seems like he's gay, right? Lindsey Graham from South Carolina. And so they're trying to do this to be relevant, but they wreck it. Like when they get involved in this stuff, they just wreck it. It's embarrassing. They embarrass themselves. Like, it's really bad. It's like embarrassing. In a way that's, embarrassing, right? And so let's get back to it here. Okay, so I'm in the editing process, and I just want to point this out. I think it's kind of obvious, but I should say it. This guy's name is Ari Meebler. This is Ari Meebler. And Ari is, do you think that anybody's out there going, okay, I want to get the lowdown on the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef. What does Ari Meebler have to say about it, right? What's Ari Meebler's opinion of the? Let's go see he's my go-to for rap battle and rap culture. Ari Meebler, he's the guy that you go to when you want to find out what's going on in the rap world, because Ari Meebler is he's just the aficionado of rap beefs.
That's not all, because I can tell you in the past 6 weeks there are about 10 new songs from 4 different artists, mostly arrayed against Drake, and at the core of it, a battle between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. These songs are topping the charts. They're captivating fans. As a matter of news, Joe Biden's presidential campaign has just engaged on the Kendrick Lamar side using his...
Wait, let me see what he said there. It's always been about love and hate. Now let me say I'm the biggest hater. What? Like, look at these guys. Like, there's...
Gauge on the Kendrick Lamar side using his new lyrics to go against Trump. We are talking about an event that...
I hate the way that you walk over women's rights. What? Like, again, this is a Supreme Court thing. He's a Catholic, Joe Biden, and so he should be anti-abortion, but whatever.
Trump. We are talking about an event that is so big in our culture, it has become part of our politics and public life, driving debates and plenty of news.
All right, let me see if I can find that. Okay, so this is the TikTok platform that is deemed a threat to, American sovereignty, and they're going to make TikTok illegal after the election. But before it, he has 300,000 followers. This is Biden with the meme, this meme that I show you. This is the Dark Brandon meme. Like, he's going in and scorching things with his, this is what they call it, Dark Brandon, to celebrate the Let's Go Brandon, F Joe Biden thing. They try to turn it around and turn it into this. So I'm editing again. Let me just add this. So, this F Joe Biden, there's some gaffe that a woman made where they were at one of those, NASCAR thing where there was a guy named Brandon, and this woman said the people in the audience were yelling, "Let's go Brandon," the driver of the car, some of these celebrity kind of, athletes in air quotes, right? Guys who drive these cars around. And it was F Joe Biden, which was going around at stadiums and people were just screaming it, right? And there was a rap song, an F Joe Biden rap song, and all these other things that went with it. And so the left, the right sucks. Like, it's not that the right is great, but, they created something. The F Joe Biden thing was a, creative content, right? And the right ran with it, and it was, pretty funny to some extent. It was interesting. And, these people who control the system and, who are dominating the left, and the right has the same stuff. I don't want to, I don't want to applaud the right. But these guys don't have any creative content. Their stuff sucks and they're boring. And so they're always hijacking truther stuff. This is a right-wing kind of truther, which is not real truther. But they're always hijacking our stuff and appropriating it because their stuff sucks. But when they get a hold of it, just like they're doing with this rap thing, they wreck it, right? Because Joe Biden is like, there's no dark Brandon. He's and they're, it's F Joe Biden, and they're trying to, appropriate the whole smear against him. But the guy's senile, and he's always sucked, and he's not cool, and he's not funny, and he's weird. So to bring in young followers, they have these videos. Look, they're all about Trump, right? So this is supposed to bring in young followers. They have the 4 videos here all have Trump as the thumbnail. This is Biden. Look at what's he doing here.
What's next for America?
Is this on his official account? Wow. A unified Reich? That's language.
What's next for America?
Is this on his official account? Wow. A unified Reich? That's language. That's not America's. He cares about holding on to power. I care about you.
What's next for America?
This is his video, right? He's trying to appeal to young people. So let's see if we can find the one with Kendrick Lamar.
Trump's education department repealed the so-called guidance letter that turned on-campus sexual harassment accusations into de facto criminal convictions. You know all about that. Who else would do that for you? Trump's.
So there's that. It says here, LOL, Trump's speech drowned out by chance of hypocrite. They're trying to make a case that somehow Trump has more hecklers and less support than Joe Biden does at his rallies, which is not true. Again, I'm not a Trump person, obviously. But, this is so lame. This whole thing's amazing here.
And if Jewish people are going to vote for Joe Biden, they have to have their head examined.
The last person I'm going to take advice from as a Jewish person is a known anti-Semite who's had dinner with anti-Semites.
This is Dougie Fresh, Kamala Harris's husband.
Who said there was good people on both sides after Charlottesville. He's the last person I'm going to take advice from.
He's the last person, he is.
I'm looking for a man in finance, the trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes.
So they're trying to make him look cool. There's that.
You need to hear what Trump just said.
Then I called up my people and I said, I have a guy from New York who's an incredible lawyer. He's got the right temperament. He'd be a really great judge. Oh, good, sir. How old is he? I said, he's 69, sir. So he's going to be there for 2, 3, 4 years. We like people in their 30s, so they're there for 50 years or 40 years. We don't want, and as soon as they said that, I realized, yeah, they're exactly right.
So Trump is openly saying that he is going to appoint extreme MAGA judges who are as young as possible if he gets reelected so they can be in power for 50 years.
It's crazy. Do you hear what Trump just said?
Trump has already appointed 2.
So there's that, right? This is
My opponent's not a good loser. But he is a loser.
Dark Brandon drags Trump. This is their Dark Brandon meme.
I'm working late, 'cause I'm a singer.
Reclassifying marijuana.
Oh, we look so cute.
I'm working late.
On my finger.
So this is their thing they're doing here. These are their little TikTok videos. Like, it's embarrassing. Boom, look at him go. Look at Dark Brandon go. So here he's using this rap song where the guy says this.
flies in this bitch. Drop like flies in this bitch.
Drop like flies in this bitch. This he's stealing my stuff, right? My Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies.
Just always been about love and hate. Now let me say I'm the biggest.
So this is from Euphoria, right? This is the Kendrick Lamar song. I hate the way that you walk over women's rights, right? So this is I'm not going to play more of it because they'll copyright it. But they're playing these tracks, all these pop culture tracks, and this is their video, right? And they're talking about this like it's news. It's embarrassing. Like it's freaking embarrassing, right? Then there's this one. It's Mark Hamill from Star Wars with Dark Brandon.
I'm Mark Hamill, and I'm voting for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hey, I'm Mark Hamill, and I'm voting for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, he is. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, so I'm going to revisit the Dark Brandon TikTok channel that has a lowly 300,000 subscribers, gets 90,000 views. And it's an embarrassment, right? Your guy is old as F, and he's getting hammered on Israel, and he's lost the youth, right? And no crappy TikTok videos with pop culture songs and references is going to change all that. But let's get back to this, because this is about the media.
Drake and Kendrick Lamar are trending after taking aim at one another.
There is a lot to unpack in the Drake and Kendrick Lamar feud.
The two legendary rappers going at it all weekend, each making some very wild accusations.
If Drake and Kendrick Lamar got in a rap battle, who do you think would win?
Got to go with Kendrick.
So,
Hi,
the winner in music, a big surprise, Kendrick Lamar.
The Pulitzer Prize in music almost always has gone to someone in the world of contemporary classical music.
I love the Drake new project, and I just really...
So, you know, if you're getting your news about the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef from this guy, you're old, right? You're not young. This isn't going to make the channel relevant. It's trying to explain something old people don't understand and don't really need to know about with everything that's going on in the world. And so it's ridiculous. Like, it's silly. This isn't going to make you guys pop. It isn't going to give you guys street cred. It isn't going to do anything. All it's going to do is make you look silly, and you're just going to wreck something, right? Now you're wrecking rap beefs.
really take that as, you know, love from my little brother.
There's another battle next week, right? And I don't want to hear about it. I'm signing you up, man.
The two best of their generation in their prime. I've never seen a rap battle give us this much music.
Throwing haymakers like Lamar, Kendrick at Drake.
Everyone keeps coming up to me and asking, Gail, where do you stand on this Drake, Kendrick Lamar feud?
Yeah. To me, has been the best rap battle I've ever witnessed.
Right now, we've just lived through the most significant battle in any musical genre in decades, the most consequential clash of this.
We've lived through it. Like, you know, we survived it. It's been tough, but we survived it.
Digital era. In fact, it's the internet that helps us show how we know that over 100 million people have actually heard these songs or about them. And this is deeper than rap, to paraphrase Rick Ross. It's about culture, truth, capitalism, civil rights, and...
Look at this guy trying to be profound about it, right? It's about all these things. It's just not two guys talking boop about each other, right?
What values we honor and reward. Now, in the two poles of hip-hop, Kendrick Lamar roughly represents the more artistic, raw, and truthful voice. Remember I mentioned Governor Adlai Stevenson's line? Well, Lamar echoes him in this line in the battle directed at Drake.
I know you're a master manipulator and habitual liar too, but don't tell no lie about me, and I won't tell truths about you.
Kaboom!
Lamar taking shots from a higher ground, and he lit the fuse for this whole battle in a recent verse after a long-running Cold War between these two. Then both artists did about 11 songs in all, including 8 in just the last 17 days, a flurry of music. Lamar argues in these songs that Drake is a, quote, scam artist with the hopes of being accepted and proclaiming himself the true artist, like a modern Raphael who heals and gives you art.
Man, that's just so profound, this rap battle.
But he says the...
Like, this is, you know, what kid wants to hear it broken down on this level? the cultural aspect of a rap battle. Who wants to hear this guy bring it to something, that's about old white guys or something, whatever it is, right? Adlai Stevenson and these other politicians and all this stuff. Like, they don't want that. This is not what that's about, right? It's you trying to make it, compare it to what you think has been important. Because that's,
Industries cooked as he picks the carcass apart. Lamar's allegories treat this pop star Drake as a kind of soulless zombie atop a dead industry. And Lamar casts himself as a reluctant but lethal artistic warrior and revolutionary. He indicts Drake for continuing the ugly American playbook of exploiting black culture, copying and stealing art without...
Yeah, like you wouldn't engage in that. You wouldn't try to exploit it here and make it like it's about you and your people and your, your fan base here.
Credit or value without equity. And this is an issue from current artists that Drake works with to the others that he may idolize. Take the late Tupac Shakur. Lamar invokes Tupac partly for their shared vision. Pac condemned these same capitalist dynamics before his untimely death at age 25.
Yeah, because the money isn't a part of this at all.
All the society is doing is leeching off the ghetto. They use the ghetto for their pain, for their sorrow, for their culture, for their music, for their happiness, for their movies.
Leeching. Tupac Shakur was...
Leeching. Like, this is going to be some kind of Trump thing.
Then diagnosing a problem in American capitalism and how it controls culture, what he called there the ghetto, quote unquote, or black culture, from entertainment and movies to music to withering and punishing contracts and abusive artists while they lived and after they died. This is a long-running issue. We've covered it on this program before. It relates, of course, to civil rights, to capitalism, and to politics. As for the current debate, hip-hop experts like Ebro Darden report that Lamar was right to tackle this particular use and exploitation of culture and language.
The streets in this hip-hop means something.
Means something, the streets do.
Streets and the community.
The streets mean something. These, and I don't know about Kendrick Lamar, but the majority of these rappers, a lot of them went to college, educated. Many of them are trained actors. Many of them are secretly gay. And there is, as soon as they make money, there's no living in the streets, right? There's that Dr. Dre song where he says, I still got love for the streets. He lives in like a $30 million mansion on the coast of Malibu or something, right? Like, so, the streets is something they want to leave behind, right? It's just like anything. Poverty is something people want to leave behind. If you make money and you're living in some, backwoods trailer park or whatever, you don't go and live back there, right? You may visit. Oh, yeah, this is where I came from. But you're elevated economically and then educationally and culturally just by you have access to better stuff, right? That's why this idea of privilege is silly. Because people can't wait to get privilege, and they don't give away privilege. They don't give back privilege, right?
Where this stuff comes from, the language you're using, the slang you're using, I don't know, the affiliations to individuals who live a lifestyle that is nefarious, those affiliations, they mean something to your credibility.
This means something to your credibility, Darden explains. And so what may look to some like just a battle between two big entertainers. Maybe you've heard a little bit about this and thought it's just an entertainment story. What may look like that is something much deeper for many.
It's deeper. It's so deep, this thing. It's so deep.
Many people. Now, it's a battle. Drake has been arguing that Lamar is actually the poser in his own right, saying he acts like an activist and plays with those themes lyrically, but doesn't actually take action for his community, that it's all make-believe. Drake also says that while he works hard, Lamar doesn't even make that much music anymore. And Drake dismisses this kind of hand-wringing over hits as Kendrick trying to have it both ways.
Wow, it's so deep. The depth of this thing.
His top artists want to go number one. So Drake argues his competitors only do so by either making songs with him, so they do benefit from it, he would argue, or picking fights and talking about him, the boy, in a lopsided 20-on-1 matchup.
We already know it's a 20v1. We already know why you went #1. It's clearly because of the boy. The honorable thing is to give me the loot.
To give him the loot, that's the honorable thing.
Now, Drake's responses make some points here with artistry. But over the course of this battle, he found himself defending a type of status quo and then backing off this big, long-awaited battle after he'd taunted Lamar about everything from how often he drops music to whether he would get involved in this battle, which he really did. Now, what we're discussing here is a small slice of these issues. Both men also...
Small slice. It's just a small slice of this deep issue here.
Accused each other of serious crimes with no evidence, the kind of claims that responsible journalists don't even repeat. The song's devolving into acrimony and unverifiable accusations, as the New York Times put it.
About sexual and physical abuse, body image, misogyny, hypocrisy, generational trauma, and more. See, that's the point about this. Like, you guys do put out this information. Like, he's calling himself a journalist. We're not going to repeat the fact that Drake says that Kendrick Lamar beats his girlfriend and Kendrick Lamar called Drake a pedo, right? You're saying this thing has depth, but it's a lot of these things are unsubstantiated claims that exist in battle rap.
With attacks on everything from race to appropriation to body image to misogyny and trauma and more. Now, many have noted the extremes as well here. And this is where culture may reflect and extend some of the broader problems we face today. From our politics to how we live and learn and engage.
Look, they're putting up her and him. Like, this is, like, it's you guys who are, every chance you get, are dismissing people who are independent, who are artists. People in the truth community, people who are, free thinkers, people who are expressing their critical thinking skills. And you guys are calling us crazy conspiracy theorists and linking us to shills and dopes like these two people, right? Like, this is, this is bringing it back to the battle between the establishment, which is him, and the independent people who are, are trying to scrape out some sort of a living and also bring truth to a debauched system.
Online, we have this kind of cynical anti-truth mode that has become very normalized. I bet you're
anti-truth mode. Like, again,
familiar with it if you follow news and politics. This is where in campaigns and sometimes in cultural conversations, people will seriously say, well, if the conspiracy theory sticks, it doesn't matter if it's true.
It is true. What are you talking about? There are conspiracies, and the real ones are true. The fake ones are not, right? But either way, you guys are liars and cheaters. The mainstream media, the politicians, the corporations, you guys lie all the time. You do things that are, immoral and anti-God, anti the natural order of things, and you push a, debauched agenda, right? You guys are the problem. You're the cancer. You do it all for money and power that you don't enjoy because you're miserable, crazy Fs that need sleeping pills just to, get a few hours sleep, and you're not confronting your dysfunctional and internal world, and then you talk about depth of a rap battle, right?
It worked. And I want to be clear as we take a look at this important battle that these kind of lyrical contests were once waged more in the spirit of argument, lyricism, artistry, and some sense of truth. So we should ask, are they now graded on just the most effective lies or conspiracy theories? Because if that happens, then art can devolve into politics, to partisan loyalty, not...
it's nothing about rap battles, right? Which I'll get into. Like, he's saying that Kendrick Lamar accusing Drake of being a pedo because he was, talking to that girl from Stranger Things and other, whatever. And Drake accusing him of being his wife and whatever these other things are. And these are just conspiracy theories, and people are buying into them and believing them because they like they like Kendrick Lamar's song better, because Kendrick Lamar has the most popular song in this battle, right? It's got over 50 million views right now. And so, Kendrick Lamar won this thing, and he's saying it's because of conspiracy theories, but that guy's also the artist. Like, he, talked about Kendrick Lamar being independent and being anti-capitalism, and now he's, embracing the the rebel, and he's a part of the establishment. This guy's part of the establishment. Like he's the Drake in this. He's the handler. He's not even the Drake. He's the Drake's handlers, right? He's the record. This guy's the record company. He represents the record company, the defunct, the music business.
Listening to the other side, claiming everything is justified for your team, and as mentioned, effective lies win, so why not use them too? And the other side's doing it anyway, yada, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, yada. This guy, yada, 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 the whole thing, this deep battle.
Now that's not only corrosive, it also makes us vulnerable to a bigger problem where culture is less able to do what it has done, including specifically civil rights and black culture in American life for a long time, which is push us and redeem even our political divides. Today, some of this may only reflect them. And again, that may be a product of our digitized era. I'm not saying who in one single.
No, it's a cesspit. Like, it's all a cesspit. And you guys have created the cesspit. I mean, you guys are the gatekeepers to the cesspit, where there's wealth and there's depravity available, based in you guys, endorsing it, the people that handle you, but nobody's interested in your stuff anymore. You've lost control of any sort of narrative because you have to cover something like this to hope that you're going to bring in young viewers who are never going to like what you do because you're a liar and you're a boring one. Your lies are boring. Like that's, the mainstream media, your lies are boring, right? So you could say whatever you want about, fake truthers, conspiracy theorists, disinformation agents. Their lies aren't boring, right?
Story is responsible, but noting some of these wider conflicts. So that's big picture. Now, this is still a battle, and there is the question of who won. Most hip-hop heads say Kendrick Lamar. That's clear online, from fans to rap media. As for the hits, well, this new Kendrick Lamar catalog, the new diss songs I've been telling you about against Drake, they're doing higher numbers with more likes than Drake, and they're breaking records, again, coming out of the unpredictable, organic, spontaneous exchange of poetry between these two.
Poetry, right? Organics.
Lyricists. Now, Lamar himself cautions against using only that kind of metric. In the new songs, he criticizes faking for likes and digital hugs. It's on one of those new diss tracks, and he contrasts that with authentic credibility. Indeed, in these songs, after lodging objections to bad taste and bad ideas and appropriation and exploitation, Kendrick Lamar underscores his argument, which I've told you is supported by many in America right now, that he actually represents a movement.
A movement. There's a movement afoot.
He says, notice, I said we. It's not just me. I'm what the culture feeling.
I'm what the culture feeling. There's no is there because that would be unpoetic and not deep.
End quote. All right.
Okay, buddy. Thanks for wrecking that, sucking the marrow and the life out of the thing.
Now, art is not usually a competition, but we all have choices to make, from how we live to what we support. And even when it's boiled down to just picking sides.
See, this guy's trying to make this into a story that relates to his content that nobody wants to watch. It's a dying. The people watching MSNBC and CNN are old people that like this kind of news. They're sheeple and they're not capable of critical thinking skills. And he's trying to put his spin on this thing. So, he's taking something that's pop culture and youthful, but he's, dumbing it down for, old people, right? Mostly old white people. And so it's, this is, I don't want to say cultural appropriation, but it's also something where you're making something it isn't, right? This isn't your thing. Like he's trying to relate to this and his audience ability to relate to this, like boomers. Like he's trying to bring this to the boomers.
It can be more significant to look not only at who you endorse, because we're all going to make up our own minds, and I encourage you to do that, but how
I encourage you to do that. You're telling me you encourage us to make up our own minds, right?
Getting there. And are we communicating and figuring that out? Do we define the criteria and values we use to make these choices, political, musical, cultural, or otherwise? And do we figure out if those criteria and values are correct or if they need to evolve. You know, this battle tested those values for many in real time. And what happens in the culture matters.
It matters. It matters.
Not only in the moment, because we're here on the first draft of history, but often for years to come, especially for the next generation, shaping minds. And a lot more people follow culture than news and politics. So when we have one of these big debates in real time, we should listen to each other and definitely to the next generation. What do people stand for?
What do they stand for?
Who do we oppose?
Who do we oppose? Trump?
Why do you care?
Why do we care?
If they're not like us.
Boom.
And what do we want to be? In the end, I've told you before.
He just made it so profound. This guy, he just delivers.
Lyrics are poetry.
Are they?
They can help us see and grow. And some of these questions, how we answer them together, are even more important than anything else in the debate.
Kaboom. Okay, so I got a voiceover, my last couple of videos here. I wanted to add something to that, and I got that coming up. This is taking a lot longer. I mean, this was great. This was wonderful. Because, it's just how desperate and fake mainstream media is. And, he's trying to take something, he's looking at a way to interpret this, right? To put interpretation into something. Like you see a movie or TV show, and truthers will say, oh, these guys are trying to get a truther message out there. And, you hear a song and you're trying to, apply it to what you believe or what you think it is, right? And sometimes it is that, and the artists, the people that put the thing together don't even know. This is where a message comes through somebody in a channel type of situation, and it has a more profound meaning than the person who created even knew, right? Like it's just flowing through them and they're not really kind of aware of it. Like, so really good content has that, like, different levels to it. But this guy's trying to bring it down to mainstream remedial narratives. And the issue here is that battle rap is very egotistical, right? So every once in a while I listen to some battle rap. There's the King of the Dot. There's a Canadian thing. Drake was kind of a part of that. And there's some other, whatever it was. There's that guy, Pat Stay, who just died. I didn't hear of him before that, but I listened to some of his stuff. And some of it's funny. Like battle rap's kind of funny. And, it brings me back to when I was in college. I went to a concert with Run DMC when Beastie Boys were like kids. This is years and years ago when rap was just becoming a thing. And me and my buddies used to do like, what was like a modified version of battle rap before we, even became like was a thing, where we would like just sit outside. We would wait in line at a college bar on the cold, waiting to get in, and we would, make fun of each other and do things in rap form, like when it was just a remedial thing, like it was just a new thing. Rap in its early days was kind of goofy, and then it evolved into like fake gangster rap and some of these other things, right? And so, every once in a while I saw this stuff, battle rap, when I was in India, and I kind of liked it because some of it was funny, some of it was entertaining, and every once in a while I watch it. Like YouTube will recommend it, and it'll come back up. I'll watch a video, and they'll recommend more, and I'll watch it for some period of time. But the issue with it is it's very egotistical. Rap in itself is very braggadocious, right? People bragging, this is what I am, this is what you are, right? I'm great, you suck. And there's a lot of me, I, how great I am, right? And that's what sucks about rap. It's very immature. It's usually people with, some sort of narcissistic wounding and self-esteem issues, and they have to, verbalize how great they are, the way that, old politicians, Trump and Biden and these people, all these, people who have to brag and tell you what they've accomplished and constantly throwing their resume in your face of how great they are in these things. And the documentation's often money in like rap music. I'm not a piece of shit. I look at all the stuff I have, right? And so, this is what battle rap is, kind of like that on steroids. And they make stuff up, like they make lies up about each other. Oftentimes these guys are friends, and they say the worst possible things about each other, just like the internet. But, people who grew up with that, like, I grew up in the East Coast and, New England, and where people just say horrible things to each other. My family, we used to make jokes about each other. And when you grow up with that, you're desensitized to it, right? And so it's not for me a big thing. That's why I, come off as insulting here and disrespectful, because I just, this is what I grew up with, right? But, this me, I'm better than you, and this kind of thing, it's just low. It's just, it's a low thing, right? And, whatever it is, it's not elevating anything, right? Because it's egotistical. It's my ego is better than your ego. You see this in the truth community. It's how you keep score. You see a lot of memes in the truth community about, we're 17-0, or the truthers are always right, and we're not always right. Because there's a lot of QBs, there's a lot of flat earthers, there's a lot of stuff out there that's just disinformation and right-wing stuff. And, there's lots of people who, they hear somebody else's take on something, and they adopt that as their belief system, but they don't really even understand it, right? When I asked flat earthers to explain their model, and they would just refer me to a video that I knew they didn't understand. They didn't, and the video didn't have any content in it that explained the flat earth model, how it worked with time zones and these things, right? Because they don't understand it. And that's just an example. I'm not, like the truth community is full of people who are against the mainstream narrative, but the narrative that they have in its place, or they still hold on to something like they believe in their religion, but they call BS on everything else. And so there's very few independent thinkers and people who have the ability for logic and clear thought and can, interpret things in a way that, makes sense and is it's based in reality. It's based in something, of a higher nature. That's, beyond your own personal ego and your wanting to be right. You're wanting to keep score. The idea that truthers are somehow we're more right than the mainstream media, but the mainstream media is just all lies. So, like, you can't validate yourself based in comparing yourself to this crap, right? Like, it's not. You have to have something else of a higher standard, right? And it's not about keeping score or being right. It's about changing the way that you conduct yourself based on the fact that everything that you were told as a young person and throughout your existence is a lie. And so what are you going to do with that? This is what I've been talking about, this idea of understanding that the system's collapsing because it should. It's a defunct system. It's a backward system, a demonic system. And what are you doing so that you can help fix it or create a new system after this one collapses? What are you going to do to participate in the solution, right? Like, it isn't about, everyone else sucks, because that doesn't do anything. Yeah, they do. So what? Like, what's that going to do? Oh, yeah, everyone else sucks. It's not going to build a new system. It's not going to change anything, right? You're responsible for your own personal growth and change, and to elevate yourself out of this, this whatever shit show that's going on here with these guys and the rest of them. But anyways, I'm just going to wrap this thing up here. And there's the other voiceover I have about the things I've been talking about, and I'll cover more stuff. The other things I was going to cover, I'll cover next video. Okay, so I want to add to the recent videos I've been talking about sort of the failure of the Pockets of the Future movement. It's really the failure of humanity. Just one more indicator. But, the bad part for me, for those of you who are not kind of aware of it, is that it's tied to the failure of the Sagemark system in what's the Heartfulness cult dodgy debacle, right? Because those of us who have practiced the system before Dodgy, and even people have felt some of it, after him, the remnants and what's left over, we know how great it was. Like, those of us who attended gatherings and, people would volunteer. We had people back when we lived in the, outskirts of Virginia, where there's no preceptor, somebody who was a spiritual trainer. People would drive 5 hours to our house and give us sittings. Think about that. Like, people who worked full-time jobs on a weekend would drive 5 hours to a region where there's about 20 people who practice and give individual sittings, like once a month people would come. There's a guy who came once a month from Washington, D.C. He drove 5 hours from Washington, D.C., where he worked in, the Washington, D.C. area with a family and a full-time job, and he would drive out once a month to give sittings, right? I had a preceptor that met me at the LAX airport and gave me a sitting at midnight on my first trip to India in the airport, and, would transmit and clean, and, these sittings were incredible. and just all the work people were doing. And, it's kind of hard to, put into words how it affected us all. And this guy, Chargy, who was the master of the system, he was just, he was carrying everybody. He was carrying the system and the people, in a way where his presence and his, his own devotion and hard work that he did, like he worked tirelessly, like he worked in an epic fashion on the spiritual level, but also the material level. He traveled 200 days a year, and he spoke all these various languages, and, he connected with people. He always made himself available so people could, experience his energy and his, whatever, he could serve people. And that, as soon as he died, they allowed him to be thrown under the bus. People claimed to love him. He used to weep when they had to leave his presence, right? And when he died, they threw him under the bus and allowed his defunct successor, who, I found an old talk of his where he says, "Boss, I have become better than you." Which is, what he was saying to Chargy. Like after he died, like people didn't see it because they weren't paying attention to this doofus. But he created this, this cult in heartfulness, and all these people have gone along with it, knowing full well that this guy's a putz and he sucks. And so, seeing that failure of humanity, because these were spiritual people. Like these are people who, many of them would have you over their house and they'd put you up for days. You'd sleep at their house, and they'd feed you, and they'd, the old Indian tradition of hospitality. And they, they gave sittings. I mean, they would do this volunteer spiritual work. These are, they're like clergy would be, but these are people who have families and jobs, and they do this in their spare time. My wife just came in and said that she hadn't listened to the video yet, but I guess maybe my last video, people all think I'm leaving YouTube, which I'm not. Eventually, I said I was going to give it till the end of the year. I'll get back to what I was saying here, but I'm not leaving YouTube immediately, and if I do, I might be, going to a paid whatever. So we're going to see what happens, right? Something might happen, like things change and whatever. But this is more like a progress report. And the stuff that I was talking about on my Pac Laughs Now channel was the lack of monetary compensation. So that's part of the progress report. But the other part is, this is about humanity, right? What I'm talking about here. And I've been talking about in my Journey series, and I just made a video, this other stuff to do with, the heartfulness debacle. Because those of us who experienced the wonderful aspect of the Sajmark system, I'm trying to preserve it the best that I can with the Gratefullness meditation channel. And, there's stuff there. At least the practice itself, people can access the transmission and cleaning, connect directly, right? So that's there. And it's not dead yet, that part of it, the energy. And I don't know if it'll die or if it'll find a way to survive in the, post-heartfulness debacle, because heartfulness will collapse into something, cult, whatever, disappear, whatever. But it's just the way people reacted and let something that was so wonderful die, and just support the guy who killed it, right? So, and the doofus, the a-holes around him. And so watching that, and then whatever I'm dealing with in terms of pockets of the future, whatever, and how people are reacting to the simple messages, right? I say, reporting from the apocalypse. And, that's kind of a joke and it's light, but it's true, right? This is the apocalypse. It's the apocalypse, right? It's, it's the end of a system. It's the end of a paradigm. And people kind of all know that. And what are you doing with that? If you're thinking that might be true, even just a little bit, what are you doing with that information, right? And so, people are failing, and I'm not saying like I'm doing great, like I'm doing whatever I'm doing, right? So, I'm like, whatever, like I'm not working assiduously, I do what I do here with the information, I do a little farm work, and, my wife and I, prepare and whatever it is, but it's, like it's, you can do what you can do. Like it's hard to get motivated. Maybe there'll be some wake-up calls coming, right? When our lifestyle gets disrupted in such a way that we're, in a good way, not this way. Oh, I'm a disruptor, these kind of things. I'm a disruptor, like the Beatles song, whatever that song was. I'm a believer, right? I'm a believer. I'm a disruptor. But anyways, like, it's affected me seeing the way people have in the Sajmark system, and these are higher developed souls, saints, people operating on a etheric, being able to connect with the divinity within them. Many of them better than me at the system, more devoted. I mean, the work they were willing to do, the effort they were willing to put into it, and the love they had for Chargy, and the adoration they had for the guy. And them just failing this way was a stunner. Like, I, in a million years, would never think it would go this far south. It's happened with Jesus and, all these other religions where, there's the guy and the movement, and then it becomes corrupted into a organized religion where they take the words and twist it for material benefit and power, religious power and money power. We've seen it over and over again, and then they become a middleman between the practitioners and God, right? I'm going to put this in my journey series as well because, it just needs to be. So, I saw that happen, and like, well, it's a stunner. Like, just never would have thought these people, they folded like a card house. I mean, just, and I appreciate, I feel kind of sorry for Chargy, how much he carried these, like, it's obviously he was carrying these people, like a player, like a great player carries a team, and then that player retires, and the team is like they're the worst team in the league, right? Like everyone realizes how great the player was. He was carrying the whole organization, but this was, on a much higher level, on a spiritual level, that he was just carrying everybody and bringing them up to a higher level. And as soon as he died, they all descended into low-level behaviors and just collapsed. People around him who, they would spend, these clowns would sit at his feet in his cottage. They'd come to India, like many of them had, like, they're millionaires, important men, running hotels and running businesses and working in the computer. They were making multi-million dollars, right? Guys who, some of them have patents and inventions. These were like, really successful people. Brilliant people in India that went to America and made money and then became part of the spiritual organization. And they come to India, they sit around with Chargy's cottage, a master's cottage, just waiting for the guy to tell them to do something, right? Like I'd go in there and they were always there, these guys, right? And they were just sitting around. I mean, I was like, how do you guys do this? Like, how do you sit around just waiting on this guy to, to acknowledge you in some way? And they were with him, like in this idea that they were devoted to him. And as soon as he died, they allowed this other guy, and some of them worked with this guy to destroy Chargy's legacy, erase his material, his books, his epic works, and, try to not celebrate his birthday. I mean, this shit is actually happening, right? Like, it's, I'm laughing, but it's like, it's pretty savage, and it's just a condemnation. These are spiritual people. Like, so, some of them are like, I would recognize as real spiritual people. And then people just passively sit around and watch it happen. I mean, it's bad. Like, it's really bad. So, the idea that Pockets of the Future is not growing, or, people aren't really rising up to it, isn't a surprise. I mean, look at what they did to Jesus and his disciples. They tacked the guy up on a cross. What did Jesus do, right? He turned the money over, and these guys, the Pharisees, the money changers were turning the Jewish temple into a bank, and so he turned the tables over because they were bringing business into a, supposedly a spiritual, holy place. And what was that? Let's nail this guy up to a couple of boards, right? I mean, what did he do to the Roman Empire? He had a following of a couple hundred people that were, believing that heaven, the kingdom of heaven lies within. He was a threat to the Roman Empire, this guy, right? And then it was all his disciples and all the people that, started following him. They had to be, beheaded and, and disemboweled, and all the, you read what happened to all the disciples. I mean, like, it's just a really, because, this wasn't barely even a movement back then. And then what's happened to the religion since? So it's just, humanity sucks. People suck. And Sajmarg was supposed to be a way to elevate people to a higher level. And it's, right now it looks like it's failed. And, I have hope that this is just a blip in the process, given, the changes I've gone through doing this meditation. But, this is my YouTube channel is an extension of that. And I just seen people aren't able to rise up to their higher nature. That's what this is about. And, I'm not surprised because I've lived through this in the past. I've been a part of some of these movements in past lives and some of these things. And so I'm not surprised. I'm not, I don't want to say I feel disappointed, but, because I kind of don't. Because it's what I would expect, right? Like, if I thought about it, it's... But, there's a time when this channel was growing. And, a big part of it's the platform and YouTube and, all of it. But there just isn't any energy there, right? And, whatever energy I can bring to this thing by making content on a daily basis, it isn't enough, right? So to carry it and move it forward and, it's where people are resonating to it. I mean, you got people like Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan who have millions of followers and viewers. And those guys are lightweights, and they're not even scratching the surface, right? Like, they're shills, and they're, Alex Jones, these people. But what this is like a real message that's, like real stuff that can help people in the future. And, 4,000 people view, regularly. It's, again, I'm grateful for the 4,000, but, it's not an indication of any sort of hope or, any sort of movement that humanity would, and like it's lower level stuff, it's remedial stuff, it's spirituality 101, it's apocalypse prepper 101, the stuff that I say here, it's basic stuff. And with that, and then there's but people can rise up to the highest levels from that introduction, right? It's a gateway into something where you rise up to something higher. That's what's available here. It's not my thing. I don't want to make it sound like how, it's a thing that I'm lucky enough to be a part of. And, this is why I always say be grateful, because there's an opportunity here to rise up to your higher nature. And, people don't want that. That's, it's not something new. Humanity's been given all these movements, and they've all been considered failures by the divine hierarchy, the beings that, who manage the divinity and the planet and try to, bring God into this, into the, the problem, the deviant humanity, right? These divine beings that are here trying to elevate human beings, and they sent, people after people to elevate these, the masses, and even the higher developed souls that get stuck here and forget about their true nature, because that happens. Like higher developed souls come down here, and then they get trapped in the matrix. Like they lose they lose sight of where they came from and what they were doing here. I mean, this place is a frickin' cesspit of depravity and pulling people down to a lower nature. It's sad, and it's but it's true, and that's just what it is. So just a little progress. This is like a little just reflecting on the progress of all of it, right? And as the system collapses around us, the idea that there'll be people who are, preparing for that to make the leap into something better, right now it doesn't look so good. Again, things might change in the future. And for the channel, things might change as well. But I'm, whatever it is, like I've accepted it. Like I'm grateful for what it is. I'm grateful for, all the things that I've been able to, to be able to do, and the content that I've made, and having a platform to do it, and it's just been a good thing for me. Like it's been a helpful thing for me. The other channels, the Gratefullness meditation channel and things like that, to save, to preserve some of the Sajmarg, essence of the system the way it was, things like that. I'm grateful to participate in it. I'm not bummed by it. I'm not in a bad mood or whatever. I feel good today. I'm upbeat. I'm happy. But in terms of progress, yeah, there's. The report card, like, I would say an F, but let's call it a D-, right? For a collective D-, for whatever it is that, is going on here and then in the rest of the world. So let's wrap this one up here, though.